Okay, can I start?
ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಂದು ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ? Good morning. Is this audible? Good morning. A warm welcome to all. Myself, Dr. Chidananda NK, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education, Shimoga. According to Mahatma Gandhi ji, health is real wealth, not pieces of gold and silver. According to Paracelsus, German physician and also a philosopher, the art of healing comes from nature, not from the physician. Therefore, the physician must start from nature with the open mind. In this aspect, present webinar is very relevant to this pandemic situation. Respected dignitaries and my dear participants, once again, welcome to all for this national level webinar on creating eco-friendly environment and reducing pandemic effects at schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation, conducted by SVK National College of Education, Shimoga, in collaboration with Kuvempu University, Karnataka State Aided B.Ed College Teachers Association, and Kuvempu University Aided College Teacher Educators Association. Now I request Dr. Prakash K, Principal, SVK National College of Education, for welcome you all. Over to you, sir. Dr. Prakash, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chidanand. I am Dr. Prakash K, Principal, SVK National College of Education, Shimoga. It's my sincere gratitude to welcome you all for the national webinar on creating eco-friendly environment and reducing pandemic effects at schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation. For this auspicious program, on behalf of SVK National College of Education, Shimoga, Kuvempu University Aided B.Ed College Teachers Association, Karnataka State B.Ed College Teachers Association, Bangalore, and Kuvempu University, Shankaraghatta, I heartily welcome our Honorable Registrar, Professor S.S. Patil, Kuvempu University, for inaugural address. Now I warmly welcome our Honorable Secretary, Shri S.N. Nagaraj of National Education Society, Shimoga. Now I warmly welcome my old friend, Dr. Vireshang Tangpu, Assistant Professor of Zoology, RIE, NCIT, Mysore, Karnataka, as a resource person for Technical Session 1. And also I warmly welcome one of my classmates and my friend, Dr. Prakasha J.S., Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Christ University, Bangalore, as a resource person for Technical Session 2. I also welcome Mr. Siddiq Pasha for Technical Assistance. And finally, I welcome all the participants for this auspicious program. Being a principal, once again, I expect your wholehearted support, cooperation, and active participation. Your support is our success. I wish you all to be safe and stay safe in this pandemic situation. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you, one and all. Over to Dr. Chidanand.
Thank you, Dr. Prakash, sir, for welcome address. Now I request our respected S.N. Nagaraj, sir, Secretary, National Education Society, to introduce our esteemed educational society. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, all. I'm happy to be associated today with the webinar being held on the national level by our one of the prestigious institutions of National Education Society, National School of Education. The National Education Society has a very impressive history. This was established during 1946 by the freedom fighters of Shumaga in response to the call given by Mahatma Gandhi to promote education in the rural India. This has been established, the society has been established truly on the Gandhian principles by freedom fighters who are on their selfless, dedicated service to the cause of education stands even today as a landmark in the Shumaga education history. It started with National Education Society started with a high school during 1948, and this was the foundation stone for this was laid by first President of India, Dr. Rajendra. So with these, in this background and blessings of such luminaries and highly educated people, as on now, National Education Society has around 35 institutions under its belt, and more than 14,000 students are studying in various colleges. The main objective of the National Education Society, even today, after 72 years of its establishment, is to give education to all the cross sections of the society. A good quality education at a reasonable cost is the motto of the Education Society, and this legacy is being even continued today. The best part of the management, best part of the Education Society is none of the management members of the society are the financial stakeholders in this society. All the schools and colleges are maintained by this fees collected by the students and parents. In that sense, the real stakeholders of the society are the parents and the students. All our accounts, all our financial statements, all our financial dealings are very transparent and very well maintained, and it is a highly reputed and very sought after institutions in the whole of Malnad region. So in this background, we have a National Education College which brings out the future educationists of the society. We build the nation through education, and we build educationists also. We have a very good B.Ed college wherein we train the teachers, potential teachers, so that they can contribute to the cause of education more meaningfully. We have a very good team of teachers. We have all the infrastructure facilities. We have all the necessary gadgets. Everything is available in the school college, and it's a very well-established college, and the college is established during 1963, and it is going still very strong. So with this, I congratulate the National Education College, National College of Education, for conducting such a good webinar on a national level, and I wish all the very success to this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the brief introduction regarding our esteemed educational society. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Now I request Pallavidi, lecturer, SVK National College of Education and Chief Coordinator of this national webinar for introductory remark. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Chidanand, sir. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Pallavidi, working as a lecturer at SVK National College of Education, Shimoga. I welcome all for today's one-day national webinar on creating eco-friendly environment and reducing pandemic effects at schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation. Honorable dignitaries, resource persons of this national webinar, and dear participants, as an organizer, I'm very happy to share my views on today's one-day national webinar. The infectious virus corona is also known as COVID-19 has deeply affected the global economy. This has also shaken up the education sector, and this fear is vibrating across the education sector globally. The COVID-19 pandemic outbreak forced many schools and colleges to remain closed temporarily. Several areas are affected worldwide, and there is a fear of losing this whole ongoing process of education in the coming future. Various schools, colleges, and universities have discontinued in-person teaching. As per the assessment of the researchers, it is uncertain to get back to normal teaching anytime soon. As social distancing is most excellent at this stage, this will have a negative effects on learning opportunities. Education units are struggling to find options to deal with this challenging situation. These circumstances makes us realize the scenario. Planning is an urgent need for academic institutions. This is a situation that demands humanity and unity. There is an urgent need to protect and save our students, faculty, academic staff, communities, societies, and the nation as a whole. The pressure and stress of the pandemic are being felt across the world, and it is becoming more and more important to consider its impact on the mental well-being of teachers. This shows various psychological problems and important consequences in terms of mental health, including stress, anxiety, depression, frustration, uncertainty during COVID-19 outbreak emerged progressively. Becoming psychological well-being and mentally healthy is necessity of the changing world. Before we learn one skill and aspect, it becomes redundant as a new aspect emerges. This rapid change makes it necessary to learn to be happy, to adjust with available contextual situations. COVID-19 has also changed our lives severely in all spheres of life and has imposed unexpected conditions on living. People are quarantined in their homes, schools are closed, and children are at home, cannot go even for play, sociability is challenged, and it is asked to follow social distancing. This is a new context which people have not experienced earlier, the two worldwide. These unexpected impositions have impacted our life negatively. Children at home may feel unhappy, stressed, frustrated, uneasy, anxious, which is very obvious as they have never seen such a situation before. Now, parents and teachers' responsibility increases to look after the health, particularly mental health of children. In this regard, the two eminent speakers are going to address the topic in today's webinar. The topic will be discussed under two sub-themes by our resource persons. Dr. Varashang Tangpu sir, one of the resource persons of today's webinar, is going to speak about creating eco-friendly environment in schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation. And the other, another resource person, Dr. Prakash GS sir, is going to speak about the research perspectives on maintaining efficiency and reducing pandemic effects at schools. So these are the two topics which are going to discuss in this webinar, and I assure that you will get a valuable information from our resource persons. And finally, once again, I welcome all the dignitaries and the participants to this webinar. Thank you all for providing me this opportunity. Over to Chidanand sir.
Thank you, Pallavi madam. Thank you for providing a bird's eye view on today's webinar. Thank you, madam. Now I request Mr. Manjunatha DS, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education, to introduce our Honorable Registrar of Kuvempu University, Professor S.S. Patil, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chidanand. A very good morning to all. Myself, Professor Manjunath DS, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education. It's an immense pleasure for me to introduce one of the great intellects who believe in simple living and I thinking is none other than the Professor S.S. Patil, sir, the Registrar of Kuvempu University. As this would be a difficult job for me to introduce such a great personality within short span of time as he is having a high profile. Nevertheless, I am attempting to introduce Professor S.S. Patil, sir, to you all. Professor S.S. Patil, sir, as born on 19 June 1964. He is a well-known scholar, academician, and a good administrator too. Sir is having a 20 years of vast teaching experience as visiting faculty, principal, and associate professor and professor. Professor S.S. Patil, sir, has also served in different administrative positions as a special officer to Chief Minister of Karnataka in 2009, Chairman of MPhil Committee and Chairman of Doctoral Committee, Kuvempu University, BOE and BOS member of different universities, Syndicate member and Academic Council member of Kuvempu University, Task Force member of Karnataka Knowledge Commission, Government of Karnataka, member of Mission Group, Karnataka Knowledge Commission, Government of Karnataka, member of Development Council in Diet, member of Editorial Board in Thematic Journal of Education, Director of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Board, Kuvempu University, Dean of Education Faculty, Kuvempu University, Acting Vice Chancellor of Kuvempu University. At present, he is serving as a Registrar of Kuvempu University. Professor S.S. Patil sir is an eminent scholar and his area of specialization are advanced education psychology, advanced education technology, research methodology, and distance education. Sir has published 8 books and 95 research articles in different journals and successfully completed 3 major research projects. Sir has presented around 135 papers in different international, national conferences and delivered lecturer as a resource person in various training programs. Apart from all these, he is a great human being and a model for several budding teachers. Once again, I would like to welcome Professor S.S. Patil sir to the webinar for the inaugural speech. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. SVK National College of Education is organizing national level series of webinars starting from today. On this occasion, I congratulate the organizers for organizing such a wonderful series of webinars which constitute of very pertinent issues, especially during this spread of pandemic of COVID-19. I also extend my appreciations to all the resource persons who are going to deliver series of lectures and discussions, initiating the discussions on very important topics pertaining to different aspects of education. Starting with the psychological well-being during this period of pandemic is a very important issue. We are all accustomed to a routine of getting up in the morning, going to the college and attending the classes. All these things are our routine. But probably anybody has faced such a situation wherein this routine gets hampered. It becomes very difficult for any individual to adjust to a new routine. That new routine is not some sort of work, but having no work. How to adjust to the situation having no work is very difficult. We have all experienced it. Now comes about the physical activities. I think there is more than 75% reduction in our physical activity because of this lockdown period. And as we all know that idle mind is a devil's workshop, even our mental activities have also come to a standstill. Not actually standstill, but they have got reduced. It cannot make us happy without being active physically and mentally. How to be healthy? How to keep myself active, not only physically but mentally, is a very important issue. After all, mental well-being describes and derives the physical well-being. The psychological well-being, which we can say it in a broader sense, decides our physical well-being. And I'm very happy that in this series of webinar, this particular topic has been chosen, and I think there will be deliberations on this particular topic. Dear friends, we all belong to teaching community, and nowadays, because of the National Education Policy 2020, lot of things are going to change at all levels of education. Especially the teacher education is going to change drastically because of the initiation of NPE 2020. It's a known fact that the standalone B.Ed colleges are going to close down by 2030. Or in fact, I can say like this, there will be no standalone B.Ed colleges, there will be only integrated B.Ed colleges. What is this integration? How we can integrate the pedagogy and content, especially at a degree level. All these days, we were very busy with discussing about pedagogy. But pedagogy can be learned only when there is a content. It's a known fact that the pedagogy differs from subject to subject. A science teacher cannot use the same method of teaching as used by a language teacher. We cannot separate pedagogy and content. But in our routine B.Ed courses, without the knowledge of enough content. That's why it is very important that the knowledge of the content at higher education level, especially the specializations that we are going to study at graduation level or post-graduation level, have a direct connection with the pedagogy. So it is not important only to study about the content at a school level, but also important to learn the content at higher education level. And more important aspect is that we have to integrate the content of the higher education with the pedagogy. With this basic principle of integration, the integrated B.Ed course will be initiated by the National Education Policy 2020. Now, all the degree colleges will be of 4 years. 3 years will be the degree. 4th year will be the integrated degree. Remember, in integrated B.Ed college, the pedagogy starts or it can be compounded with the content of the the usual degree. For example, if there is a BSc student who is studying chemistry, physics, and mathematics, along with the content of chemistry, physics, and mathematics at the graduation level, he has to study the pedagogical part which matches the content. So there is possibility of getting better teachers than what we are getting today with our 2-year B.Ed course. So this issue, maybe there may be some problems also, some issues may be there. Those issues can also be discussed and a solution can be found out, and this topic is also being included in this webinar. And I'm also very happy that this seminar, this webinar is going to discuss about one important aspect, that is the health and hygiene part that is to be taken up at school and college level. Today, hygiene is a big challenge for us. When he mixes up with his fellow mates, there are every chances that he may forget the standard operating procedures that are to be followed. during this period of corona pandemic. Very important thing is that sanitization, physical distance, wearing of mask. It seems to be very simple. You know that prevention is better than cure. If we keep ourselves more hygienic, if the school environment, if the personal hygiene is taken care of, we may not have any chance of getting affected by the corona. This is a big challenge in schools and colleges. That's why it is very essential that the health and hygiene part, how to take up. It's a challenge for the administrators. It is a challenge for the teachers. It is very difficult to handle the students, especially at the school level and even at the college level. How to manage with it? How to make our students aware of the dangers of this COVID-19? So these things are to be handled very essentially. I hope this series of webinar is taking up all these issues, pertinent, especially during this period of corona. I'm very happy that I have been invited to inaugurate and speak few words about this seminar. The SVK National College of Education has been very active in the field of teacher education. It has got a very good band of teachers, and these teachers are very hardworking. And I'm happy that you people have joined to give your inputs and come out with some consensus and discuss some important issues, and some important solutions can be arrived at. I wish the organizers a great success, and all the participants to participate actively and keep ourselves mentally healthy, active, educationally moving, because no corona should stop us from getting.
Now I would like to thank our Honorable Registrar, Professor S.S. Patil sir, for his inspirational speech, which has motivated us to conduct much more events in future. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Now we will move on to technical session 1. Area of presentation is creating eco-friendly environment schools entering COVID-19 situation. Now I request Dr. Lavanya C, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education, to introduce the resource person, Dr. Vareshang Tangpu, Assistant Professor of Zoology, Regional Institute of Education, NCERT, Mysuru, Karnataka. Over to you, madam. Dr. Lavanya, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Chidanand, sir. A warm greetings to all. I'm Dr. Lavanya CE, working as an assistant professor at SVK National College of Education, Shimoga. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to introduce one of the resource persons of today's webinar, Dr. Vareshang Tampu, sir, who is a young, energetic, and highly scholared. Dr. Vareshang Tampu, sir, has qualified JRF NET in Life Science in 2000 and completed PhD in 2007 from Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, on study on antidiarrheal and anticestodal efficacy of some plants used in folklore medicine system in Manipur. Tampu sir is having a 13 years of teaching experience. Presently, sir is working as an assistant professor of zoology at Regional Institute of Education, NCERT, Mysuru, Karnataka. His fields of specialization include cell biology, immunology, parasitology, and developmental biology. Since 2007, Sir has been going to bird watching activities along with research and teaching. He has published a field guide book, Biodiversity of RIE Mysore Campus, a manual, in 2014. Dr. B. Kampu sir has 22 research publications, in which 3 are in national and 19 are in international journals. Sir has been worked as an organizing secretary for National Science Day celebrations at RIE Mysuru for the last 4 years. Sir was a resource person for several teacher training programs, supervised for internship training, coordinated several development research, extension, and training programs since 2007. Apart from all these, Dr. Kampu sir is a dedicated and committed teacher who always work to bring innovations in teacher education. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Dr. Varesham Kampu sir to the session, and I would like to thank all the organizing committee for providing me this opportunity. And I hand over the session to Kampu sir. Sir, we are eagerly waiting to listen to your lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me, madam, now?
Yeah, sir, yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you so much to Lavanya, madam, for the beautiful introduction about me. A very warm welcome and good morning to all the luminaries, dignitaries of this national webinar. I must first of all thank the organizers of SVK National College of Education for giving me this opportunity to be part of this esteemed webinar. First of all, I must thank Professor S.S. Patil, Registrar of Kavempu University. I must thank Sri S.N. Nagraj, the Secretary of National Education Society. I must make a special gratitude to Dr. Prakash Anand K, my colleague, and now Principal of SVK National College of Education. I must also mention a special thank to Dr. Prakash GS, Assistant Professor in Christ University, Bangalore, my co-resource person. And I must thank the organizing committee members, especially Dr. Lavanya for introducing me, and Pallavi for communicating and informing me about this webinar event. Thank you all for making me to be part of this event. And I must also thank all the participants who have such a great zeal to be part of this webinar. Yeah, I will start presenting my slide. Share slide. Host has to permit me.
Sir, host given permission. Please start, sir. Please start, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give a permission for the, okay. Thank you. Yes, I got it.
Yes, sir. Start. Thank you, sir.
I got it. Yes. Is my slide visible there now?
Yes, visible, sir. Visible.
Okay. Is my slide visible now?
Visible, sir. Visible. Okay, start, sir.
Thank you. This is a very interesting topic at this situation, creating eco-friendly environment in schools and colleges during this pandemic or during the COVID-19 situation, after or during the lockdown. I would like to divide this interesting topic into 3 segments. Number 1, what is it to creating eco-friendly environment in schools and colleges? Number 2, what are the precautions and measures to be taken during COVID-19 situation in schools and colleges once reopening has come into existence? And segment number 3, I would be talking about the effects of the lockdown so far due to COVID-19 pandemic in schools and colleges, the campuses. Okay. Now, there are fancy marketing terms we hear every day in our life, talking about the environmentally friendly is a very fancy word. Environmental friendly is another word. Eco-friendly is a very attractive term. Nature friendly. Go green. Clean environment is what we all are expecting for. Organic, one must go organic. No chemicals in any food items. Pesticides free in any items, whether it is manure or food items. These are the very interesting, catchy marketing terms which is related to our topic today. Now, when we talk about the environment, it takes us back to the National Sustainable Development Goals, which was set up by the United Nations General Assembly way back in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals are designed to be a blueprint for achieving a better and more sustainable future for all of us, which are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. And these are part of the UN resolution agenda called the 2030 Agenda. The targets and indicators of the Sustainable Development Goals are included in the UN resolution adopted by the General Assembly 2 years later, that is on 6th of July 2017. Now, if we must look at these 17 national Sustainable Development Goals, we come to understand that there are at least 7 goals which are devoted to improving our own environment. Now we can see these icons which are devoted for eco-friendly environment. Look at this green one, which says that during this pandemic, I have come to observe that everyone starts going cycling. Everybody starts purchasing cycle, low end, higher end, because I come to understand that my son is an international cyclist. He keeps training every morning and every evening. So as early as 5:30, all the places in Mysore I'm talking about, in Mysore, Ring Road and peripheral are full of cyclists. Everyone is going for green cycles. Now, be responsible. Protecting the forest is one of our core objectives. Now, only the wisest and the stupidest of man never change. I repeat, only the wisest and stupidest of man never change. There are only 2 people who will never change. If you are too wise, you will never change because you know everything, you don't want to change anymore. If you are too foolish, you will never change because you don't realize the need of a change. But I must tell you, my dear participants and luminaries present in this webinar, it is a time for change. The changing times demand change in education also. So we must change with time and stop global warming. Now, be eco-friendly. That means plant more trees. This is the icon for protecting the nature. I'm a zoologist by profession, so I must always advocate saving the animals in and around your environment. Now, planting a tree and more trees is one of the icons. Saving the water, every drop counts, is one of the icons of eco-friendly environment. Eco lessons, that means learning more and more how to live in this changing world. Eco agreement, your green contract is another icon. Now, there are many sustainable tips which bring about eco-friendly environment on our own campus. To begin with, what are these terms? I'll just make one line about each of the terms. Biofuels. These fuels are created for sustainable resources or resources that are natural to the environment, such as from plant materials and animal waste. An example of biofuel is biodiesel, which is a fuel created from used vegetable oils that can be used to power diesel engines. Look at the carbon footprint. This is a measure of the total amount of greenhouse gases emissions, including carbon dioxide, produced by a single building or business establishment or a person or other entities. To mitigate climate change, the goal is to have a smaller carbon footprint, to produce less carbon footprint, which contribute less to the global warming. Composting. Instead of sending food scraps and houseyard debris to sit in a landfill, you can decompose or compose them to reduce garbage and create nutrient-rich soil. Organic matters, including anything from a bit of food waste to old newspapers, can be decomposed quickly under aerobic condition and create a very rich kind of soil that can be used for gardening and other purposes. Energy efficient. A product is energy efficient if it does the same job as its counterpart environmentally, but it uses less energy to do so. For example, an energy efficient washer cleans clothes but uses much less water and detergents. Fossil fuel. Fossil fuels are the sources that are non-renewable forms of energy, such as oil, coal, or natural gases that were created in the prehistoric era by animals and plants that had died and were gradually covered by many layers of rocks. Apart from polluting the air, the problem with fossil fuel is that once they are gone forever. Global warming. The terms global warming and climate change are very often interchangeably used, but subtitle difference do not exist between them. While climate change refers to the long-term changes on the Earth's temperature, global warming specifically refers to the increase in the planet average surface temperature due to human-made greenhouse gases. Gray water. This is a water that does not contain any harmful pollutants and that can be used for other applications. An example is recycling of wastewater coming from dishwashing or laundry to wash a car or for watering the plants. Greenwashing. Greenwashing is when corporations try to capitalize on the sustainability movement by promoting environmental friendly activities while operating opposite way in reality. Organic. Organic food or organic fibers are created without the use of pesticides or chemicals fertilizers. Livestock that is considered organic is raised without antibiotics or hormones or chemicals. Recycling, the act of taking an existing item and reprocessing or repurposing to its use again is called recycling. An example would be used plastic containers being turned into things like sleeping bag, garbage, clothing, or storage items. Renewable energy. Unlike fossil fuels that cannot be reproduced, renewable energy resources such as biomass, geothermal, solar, wind, and photovoltaic resources. These resources replenish or renew themselves naturally. Sea level rise. This term is used anytime the average level of ocean level rises. The sea level rise is caused by melting glaciers and the land ice that release more water into the ocean, and by the time the ocean expanding due to temperature rising. Slow food. This is a movement that focuses on eating food from local and natural resources, including eating what is in season and focusing on food that are simple without any preservatives. Sustainable, a favorite term for everyone. This is something, anything can become sustainable if it can be used to meet present needs and it does not compromise for the resources of future generation use. For example, bamboo grows so quickly that by the time today's products need to be replaced, the bamboo has regenerated, meaning that it is ready for future use. Upcycling. This is a sister term for recycling. This is an act of using an item that would otherwise be recycled or go for landfill to create something completely different. And an example of upskilling might be milk carton used as planters for starting seeds, or empty glass food jars to be taken and hold as office supplies, or old denim jeans can be woven together to make a rack. Student groups in campus. Now, there are a number of student groups in campus nowadays in colleges and in schools who have focused on issues on sustainability and environment or climate change and recycling, decomposing, composting, eco-warriors, and they provide a number of opportunities to enact change for school and college campus. Now, what can I do for the environment? Having said about the popular terms, what can I do for the environment to go green and clean environment? Now, these are a few of the ideas and suggestions that I have for the participants' interest. Number one, introduce green habits. This is our own campus in Arai, Mysore. A green patch of land can be dedicated in the school or college premises for a mini farm, and students can be taught about planting and taking care of them. It's a learning practice, and it helps them to go in tune with eco-friendly activities. Now, class dedicated to cleaning. Yes, it is a strategy which can be created for cleaning the classroom and the school and college premises. It is not just aimed at driving environmental consciousness, but it is also a fun bonding activity for the students. Number three, green badge exercises. This is aimed at going beyond textbook theories and implementing theories in real life. Teachers must impart practical knowledge by introducing do-at-home experiences like planting trees in the areas and finding solutions to reduce and segregate waste in-house. Lessons on saving energy. When we speak about an energy efficient future, most of it relies on how we sensitize to the young generation to make them sure that they have a clarity on renewable energy and the power of technology that goes along in making things easier for them in the future. Now, themes on sustainability. Setting eco-friendly themes every week in the campus can be an engaging and learning experience for learners. From no plastic use to minimum use of plastic, the students can be given specific tasks to do every week or every month and report about what they have learned from it. This will help inculcate sustainable habits in the future. A club dedicated to environmentalists. Starting an environmental club like Eco Warriors in RI Mysore, which is a great way to get students energized about taking care of the earth and helping the community while learning about some of the most important issues facing the world in this 21st century. Mock awareness rallies to ensure that students have ownership of what they want to change and how to implement these changes can be done by conducting mock awareness rallies within the campus. The exercise will push students to research, investigate how and why things happen, and make their own decision about complex environmental issues. Anti-pollution ambassadors. Now, there are so many anti-pollution ambassadors taking place in northern part of the country, including NRCs, because with the spike of air pollution, many schools and institutions in NRC started an exercise to engage students as anti-pollution ambassadors. The anti-pollution ambassadors were tasked with spreading awareness on the need of conserving the environment by not burning paddy straws. Produce own powers. Now, way back in 2016, a very prominent school, international school in Bangalore, set up an example by producing its own power and supplying the surplus to the grid, and also gave its student importance lesson on the environment. A whooping 3 crores has been invested in solar panels, and the Karnataka state government aids them for doing that. It is not just a solar energy that the school is investing in. It is also a biogas plant that teach and help students about the process. Number 10, perhaps this could be my last suggestion. Skits and plays based on spreading environmental awareness. Having skits and plays in schools and colleges promotes 2 important rules. Rule number 1, caring for our environment. Rule number 2, showing respect for other cultures. Now, I would like to cite the leading examples on eco-friendly strategies carried out in Kerala state. One is KV School, Kendra Vidyalaya School in the capital, Trivandrum, and second one is KV School in Uttapulam. These 2 schools have set a leading example way back in 2018, and they are still following the sustainable routine and eco-friendly environment in their schools. Look at this school in Trivandrum, which has done a number of eco-friendly activities, including segregation of waste materials, and also use of plastic is discouraged in their school premises. Look at the manuals produced from composting, which is used for the school gardening. And the school encourages the students and the teachers and staff to purchase the items produced from their own gardens. This is another school in Uttapulam, a green environment, and they were recognized as one of the GPS Jain Maker School in the year 2017 and 18. Look at what they have done. This is a very eco-friendly and low cost or no cost experiment done on biogas. Look at their vermicomposting unit in a very, very locally environmental setup. Now, taking back to another leading example in the country, there is a school in Assam, very unique school founded by a couple, Paramita Sharma and Mazin Mukhtar, in the year 2016. This school has a strength of almost 100 students from 4 to 15 years of age. It is, of course, funded by Indian Oil Company. What do they do? A very unique thing about is they accept plastic waste as school fees. Students bring their plastic waste from their home, and that is used for recycling purpose. Now, taking me back to the second part of the topic, the guidelines for reopening of schools and colleges during this situation. Now, the schools are going to be opening very soon. Now, is it safe for any child to go back to school? Or is it safe for any young college student to go back to their institution? It's a question now. Life during the COVID-19 pandemic is difficult, as mentioned by so many speakers, and the education system is going to change drastically. It is changing now. Online classes are happening everywhere, rampantly. How successful are we will be shown in the next academic year. So life during the COVID-19 pandemic is very difficult for the parents and for the students. The return to schools and colleges is not far off from now. And it is very important and hopefully a welcome step that you are likely to have many questions. Here is the latest information, what you are expecting and how you can support the students in your campus. I'm going to talk about some of these issues and concern because we are slowly seeing an increasing number of children returning back to the school. Now, more than 1 billion students are still out of school due to nationwide close down globally. However, 105 out of 138 countries that have closed down their school, that means 78% of the countries have decided to go on date to reopen schools. Out of 105 countries, 59 countries have already reopened their schools or even plan to open their schools as on the latest information on August 2020. Now, as per the guideline given by the UNICEF, going back to school is likely to look very different, and what you were seeing before will not be the same. It is possible that schools and colleges may reopen for a period of time, and then a decision may be taken to close them down again temporarily, depending upon the local context. Because of the evolving situation, authorities will need to be flexible and ready to adapt to help every learner very safe environment. Now, the UNICEF has given a number of guidelines for the establishment of this. Now, there are few basic principles issued as a guideline by the UNICEF to the schools and colleges across the globe. Number one, sick students, teachers, or other staff should not be allowed to come to school and colleges. Number two, schools and colleges should enforce regular hand washing stations in every point. Number three, campus of schools and colleges should provide water sanitization stations and waste management facilities and follow environmental and decontamination procedures. Campus should promote social distancing as well. Now, there are so many false and fake information and myths about the spread of COVID-19 disease. The most reliable resources are shown only by sources like UNICEF, WHO, National Health Ministry advisories. Don't rely on the false and myths informations being spread in the WhatsApp or other social media. The minimum social distancing practices that we can take care once the school and college reopen can be staggering the beginning and the end of the school and college days. The beginning and the end of class hour is to be monitored very, very carefully. Cancelling of assemblies, sports and games, and other events that includes crowding conditions should be avoided. Create a space for students' desks to be at least 1 meter apart from one another. Teach and model creating space and avoiding unnecessary touching among the students, to the students, and among the staff. Now, there are simple plans for continuity of learning in case of absentees or sick leave or temporary school or college closure. Support continued access should be of quality education. Now, this may include, number one, use of online or e-learning strategies as we are doing now. This may be the alternative way of learning. Assigning reading or reading exercises for home study. Other means of broadcasting such as radio, podcast, television broadcasting for academic, alternative academic arrangement. Assigning teachers to conduct remote weekly follow-up with the students, extra miles to be taken by the teachers. Review and develop accelerated education strategies. Now, it is quite natural that students may develop some kind of health issues, maybe emotional issues, mental issues. We, the teachers, have to encourage them to discuss their questions and concern. Explain to them that it is quite normal that they may experience different reaction and encourage them to talk to the teachers if they have any questions or any problems in the campus. Now, here is a quick checklist for the administrators, teachers, and staff. Number one, promote regular hand washing, and hand washing stations should be available in every exit and entry point. Ensure that soap and safe water is available in the campus and premises. Place hand sanitizers in the toilet, classrooms, halls, and exit and entry points. Clean and disinfect school buildings before starting the class or after starting the class, and even the classrooms, especially water and sanitizing facilities, at least once a day. Increase the flow of air in the classroom or in the hall or seminar place by opening windows. If possible, use air conditioning. Ensure that trash is removed daily and disposed of safely from the school and college premises. Now, I want to come back to the third segment of my talk. That is, what are the effects of the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic so far in the schools and colleges or any institution learning premises? What are the effects so far we have seen? Since the 16th of March, all the schools and colleges have been shut down. And as an effect of which, we have seen so many effects, so many changes taking place in our campus, especially ours. RI Mysore is a huge campus of 135 acres of land, full of greeneries, about 1,500 residents, including school children, staff, and college children are residing here in the campus. Now, due to the shutdown of this, population has drastically minimized. We are only a few hundreds remaining here in the campus. Now, what are the effects? I will show you one by one. the green environment has come back. Less disturbance to the environment brings back the greeneries everywhere. And from March to this September so far is a season of rain. Rain has covered with the increasing greeneries in the campus. Fauna and flora, animals and plant population has drastically increased. Abundance can be seen everywhere. Myself, being a bird watching personality, I go for birding everywhere in the campus. The number of birds and animals has drastically increased. I will tell them one by one. Very less waste products are produced within the campus. We can see everywhere less energy usage of water, usage of electricity is minimum use. We can see the pollution level taking place in a minimum level as well. Now, very interesting species in our campus is a chameleon, which has not been seen for many years in the past. During this lockdown, interestingly, the chameleon population has come into the campus. Here in this photo, I want to show you a perfect camouflage, which is changing its own color with the background of the person or background of the surrounding as well. Perfect example of camouflage. So this is shown by the chameleon found in RI Mysore campus. Yes, as it was introduced by Dr. Lavanya, I have produced a book on biodiversity of RI Mysore campus, which talks about more than 200 species of animals, including birds, and plants of 400 plant species that are available in the campus has been described in this book. This can be used as a manual by any person interested in setting up of this. Now, interestingly, so many birds have come back to the classroom, including the classroom here. I can show you the small area here. This is a nest of red-whiskered bulbul nesting on the window of a classroom. Now, this is not alone. There are so many classrooms, especially the window area, where students are not available here in the campus anymore since the last 5-6 months. And we know that March, April, May, June are the months for breeding of birds. The birds undergo reproduction during these months. And now they have come to every trees and plants and corners, including the classroom windows. They are setting up we have done a very interesting survey on this and capturing of their live birding and nesting, hatching, everything is being recorded, which needs another platform for me to discuss and present. Today, I just want to show that red-whiskered bulbul is one. Interestingly, this parent can sit near the window very close, and even if any person intrudes the area, it does not move at all. It comes very close to its nest. Look at this. This is another cratid, a juvenile form, which comes onto my hand and it starts shedding onto my hand as well. See, very, very interesting. They are very least disturbed by the human habitation in the campus. These examples are not alone. There are many of such kind of this coppersmith parrot and white-cheeked parrot. These are beautiful green animals living in our campus. The number and abundance of the species can be seen very rampantly in our campus. Woodpeckers of two types, which are also nesting, and they make their nest on the coconut trees and other woods, very least disturbed in our campus. Look at the kingfishers, white-breasted kingfishers and blue kingfishers. They are also abundantly found now in our campus. Interestingly, rose-ring parakeet are found abundantly during this lockdown in the field and orchards. So it is very illegal for them to be caged and sold as pet. They should be freely living in the environment. Yeah, very interesting red-weathered lapwing. This lapwing is very interesting species found in our campus because this is one of the species I promote in the campus. It makes a beautiful sound that we call it as a call. It makes a beautiful call like, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Sometime in the evening, about 7 p.m. or so, it moves around the campus, reminding every resident in the campus whether you have done your work properly or not. It reminds as if it makes a sound like, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? So that is a gentle reminder to all the residents. So if you disturb the bird, it will move away like, this bird has abundantly come back to our campus. Now, especially the playground, especially football field, all that corners are full of greeneries. They are abundantly living on this area and nesting them. So many young juveniles of this lapwing has come up in our campus. Look at this blue flycatcher, one of the interesting bird found in the campus of RA Mysore, which have been documented. It is not only red-whiskered bulbul, but also red-winged bulbul found abundantly in our campus. Yeah, interesting thing is that there are 3 types of crow. All that black birds that you see around are not just crow. They can be house crow, jungle crow, or red raven. So slowly, the house crows are disappearing in our campus. Rather, Indian jungle crow has abundantly reproduced and bred in the campus during this lockdown. Now, crow pheasant is neither a crow nor a pheasant, but it is a very powerful, very carnivorous bird which is found in our campus. It can swallow snakes of any size. Look at this robin, Indian robin, and it's keeping their tails high, alert, which is abundantly found in RA Mysore campus as well. Yeah, these are a group of birding group in our campus. Yes, just for a reminder for those who are not into birding, bird watching is very interesting, and it is not only a professional work, but it is a very interesting hobby. Very often, bird watching is done not by the biologists, but by the professionals, other professions like engineers, doctors, or entrepreneurs, environmentalists. Now, why do we need to go for bird watching? Because birds include very interesting colors, and they are the indicator of our environment. Number of birds and the type of bird species available in the environment indicate the health of the environment. So just a binocular and noting sheet is sufficient for a bird watching to begin with. Look at this group of bird watching group. My students, very interesting and very enthusiastic to learn along with me. This is also another photo that I have taken. Yeah, sunbirds having a long beak, which they use for sucking in search of nectar and insects. Long and curved. Yeah, I think that is the end of my presentation. That is the end of my presentation. I don't know if all of you are,
Okay.
are you still awake, sir?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you, sir.
Am I still audible to you?
Okay, sir. Okay. Now I would like to thank Dr. Vareshan Tangpu, sir, for his holistic and such a comprehensive presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Very interesting presentation from your side. Now it's the time for discussion. I request the participants who have any questions regarding this area, please text your question in chat box. I will communicate with you, sir. Tangpu, sir.
Yes, sir.
This first question from Ramesh Harihara.
Okay.
Question is this possible to add eco-friendly environment? Eco-friendly environment content as a part of hardcore syllabi at secondary level school.
Definitely, yes. I must say, the current NEP 2020 talks about the sustainable development. Definitely, this will become one of the course curriculum in the coming years, not only at the secondary level or higher secondary level, right from the beginning of the primary stage, because this is going to become, right from NEP, once this is implemented, a national curriculum framework, which is usually developed by the NCERT, is going to include this eco-friendly environment or related to sustainability as one of the curriculum idea here. Definitely, it will be included.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your objective answer. Thank you, sir. Herewith, we conclude this session.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much for this privilege.
Okay. Sir, one more question is here.
Okay.
One more question, sir.
Okay, sir.
Is it possible to introduce eco-friendly strategies from the primary school curriculum?
Eco-friendly?
Eco-friendly strategies from primary school curriculum.
Yes, definitely yes. Now, what is meant by eco-friendly environment is nothing but causing less pollution, less wastage, and then inculcating the habit of going green. These are the simple fundamental principles talking about eco-friendly environment. So though the children may not do on their own much at that level, but teachers can definitely inculcate such values, such environment can be created in the initial stage as well. Definitely at all levels of education, eco-friendly environment can be created.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. Now, technical session 2. Area of presentation is research perspectives on maintaining efficiency and reducing pandemic effects school level. Now I request Dr. Manju, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education, to introduce Dr. Prakash GS, Assistant Professor, School of Education, Christ University, Bangalore, as a resource person for this session. Over to you, sir, Dr. Manju Enti.
Thank you, Dr. Chidanand, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. I am Dr. Manju Enti, working as an assistant professor at National College of Education, Shimoga. It is a great privilege for me to introduce our resource person of this session, Dr. Prakash GS, sir, who is going to talk to us about research perspectives on maintaining efficiency and reducing pandemic effects at schools. Dr. Prakash GS is an educationist, an excellent speaker, a resource person, and inspiring teacher. Sir was completed MSc and MEd from Regional Institute of Education, NCRT, Mysore, and PhD from Bangalore University. Sir also got International Baccalaureate Educator Certificate from DePaul University by USA. He is a well-known scholar and academician too. At present, Dr. Prakash GS sir is working as assistant professor at School of Education, Christ University, Bangalore Central Campus of India. And he has been a teacher educator and researcher since last 18 years. He led Center for Advanced Research and Training, that is called at Christ University, as a coordinator for 5 years from 2013 to 2018. Sir has guided international academic projects with Switzerland Teacher Education University for 2 consecutive years, that is 2017 and 2018. Sir has completed a major research project on competencies of next generation teacher educators and secondary school teachers of India. He also completed a rural education project to set up informal education center to upgrade rural education in India in association with a NGO called Gramina Abhiruddhi Mattu Adhyayana Kendra, that is Grama. Sir has led many national and quantitative data analysis training workshops, and he is also a founder of Academic Mentor in Bangalore, India. He has presented various papers at national and international seminars and also published articles in national and international journals, international reputed journals. His specific areas of interest in research are teaching and learning, assessment and evaluation, teacher education, 21st century teachers and teacher educators competencies. Sir is an active editorial member, article editor, and reviewer of Sage Open Journal, that is Scoopus. Sir is coordinating the PhD program, postgraduate diploma in research methods at School of Education at Christ University. Apart from all these, he is a great human being and a role model for several budding teachers. Once again, I would like to welcome Dr. Prakash GS sir to the national webinar. Dear participants, once again, I welcome you all for this second technical session and hope you will have a very exciting and enriching and informative session by our beloved resource person, Dr. Prakash GS sir. I welcome you to the session, sir, and over to you, sir.
Good morning to all. Thank you, Dr. Manju, for this wonderful introduction to me.
Thank you.
Honorable Registrar, Professor S.S. Patil, Kuvempu University. Secretary, National Education Society, Sri S.N. Nagaraj, Shimoga. And Principal, Dr. Prakasha K., SVKNCE, and the Chief Patron of this today's webinar. And more than that, my friend, my classmate at RI Mysore in 2002, and a brilliant person. And I thank the resource person, the earlier speaker, Professor from RI Mysore, Dr. Tangpu sir, and all the participants. I'm happy to be the part of this webinar, and special thanks to Ms. Pallavi for coordinating with me to have this day come true. Well, as mentioned, you heard so far from my co-speaker on how to maintain eco-friendly environment in schools and colleges during pandemic. Well, now there is a shift from the discussion and purely based on research perspectives. And today I'm going to present research which is, I don't think you need my presentations there, and maybe I would be happy to discuss plainly with you the research that we have done, especially during this pandemic. As you all know, this part of the seminar, I'm going to talk about maintaining efficiency and reducing pandemic effects at school. And you know, maintaining efficiency. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, audible. Yes, sir, audible. Continue, sir.
You want me to present my PDF file? I can present.
Okay, sir. You can share your slides also.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Visible to all?
Oh, yes, sir. Visible. Visible. Please continue, sir.
Yeah, this is a paper submitted to Frontiers Journal from me. It talks about the, how to maintain efficiency and reducing pandemic effects in school management. Just to introduce, I know already during the introductory talk and also by the first speaker, you have heard about, what's this COVID and from where it has come in and what's the situation around during this pandemic. So I would skip the introduction of, telling you it has come from China, Wuhan, and so on. So I don't want to bore the participant by listening again and again the same things. Well, straight away, I will take up what we have done in this research is we have reviewed around 22 research articles which are published from January 2020 to August 2020, which is the last 6 months articles published in Scopus journals. But I'm not presenting the articles, but then we have synthesized into our article, what needs to, what really focuses on the reducing pandemic effect and maintaining efficiency in school education. So I straight away speak from those reviews, what we have found, latest reviews on, and these are all research outputs. It's not just, we may talk many things about pandemic from our experience, from our common sense, but now what I'm going to present, and also the topic that's given to me is to present the research perspective. So the 22 articles that we have reviewed, which are out from all over the world during the pandemic about maintaining efficiency and reducing pandemic effect, is only will be discussed in this session. So just to introduce straight from a review, Ghosh et al. 2020 studied on the impact of COVID-19 on children, focusing especially on their psychosocial aspect. The study clearly articulates that school closure, lack of outdoor activity, aberrant dietary and sleeping habits are likely to disrupt children's usual lifestyle and can potentially promote monotony, distress, impatience, annoyance, and varied neuropsychiatric manifestations. Another study conducted by Yo et al. 2020 targeted e-learning approach to reduce student mixing during a pandemic finds that e-learning interventions in educational organization can minimize disease transmission and brings less disruption to educational organizations and its operations. Another study conducted by Weiner et al. 2020 studied on school closure and management practices during coronavirus outbreaks, including COVID-19. So in this rapid systematic review, it is identified that social distancing with maintained social connectedness is essential for schools, and teacher-student ratio per class has to be reduced as a measure of safe school practices. Another study conducted by Brown et al. 2020 on learning at home during COVID-19 detailed the effects on vulnerable young Australians. It is found out that as school students are at risk and are to be restored back in schools as early as possible for their holistic growth, and educational institution must invest on both online and on-site learning in the near future. So what they say is keeping young children, the primary kids at home, just saying, there's no school and you don't understand why, is not correct, because that is spoiling their mental health. And also the study says that the economy of the country is also shaken because the parents always invest on children's, and when children comes back to school, there is various investment and business happens around it. So therefore bringing the children back to the school will also bring back their psychosocial mental health. At the same time, there is also an improvement in the economy. It's not necessarily, the lockdown and the seal down you keep on doing, it will not help. But bringing children's back is what the Australian study says. It is found out that Public Education Report, July 2020, by Harvard University on successfully restarting schools in the face of COVID-19 is worthy to mention in here. It provided a framework that education system is huge and important for nation. The planning for safe starting of schools has to be understood based on the school context, and schools may form 4 administrative groups. So Harvard University suggests, how do we unlock this? How do we bring our children back to school? So what they suggest is the school needs to make 4 administrative groups. What are those? The first group is social emotional learning group, and second one, operations working group, and third one, stakeholder engagement group, and the fourth one is communication group. When I read through this Harvard University literature, what I found is social emotional learning group will only take care of psychosocial aspects of the children, whether they are at home, when they are back here into the campus, what exactly we should do. A group of people, professors closely work with it, and then bring out the solutions in context with this, with that particular school. That is their job, that group's job. Then the second group is about the operation working group, which talks about how do we transport them, in transportation system like the school bus, whether they use their private vehicles and so on. How do we maintain hygiene there? What should be the ground rules for putting them on board to the bus, etc. All the operations, and if the parents come to school, how do we put them there? All of these are taken care by this operations working group, and every school must form these 4 groups, and then each group will take the responsibility of that particular job, is what the Harvard University suggests us. Then the next group, I already mentioned stakeholder engagement and communication group. So what is the meaning here? This group of faculty members will have a dialogue with parents, the school management, children, and all those who are involved with the education. It will constantly communicate and inform them about the happenings at the campus, and way back home, and then make sure that there is a safe environment around this, surrounding this. And communication group will communicate. We all know that many of us are staying at home. We were asked to not to come out of the house, and many areas in Bangalore especially is sealed down, and we are just stuck at home. And we are all speaking much these days over the phone because we don't get to see anybody, right? So communication group is very important. Yet they have to listen to students grievances or concerns about how they are feeling during this homeschooling. At the same time, the online classes happening from the institutions, what's happening, there need to be a communication facility made available, and the people out there should pick up the calls and address the students, address the parents, address the management, everybody. So this is one of the efficiency that the Harvard University put forth. Okay, moving forward, a review article by Lestari and Gunawan in 2020 on impact of COVID-19 pandemic on learning implementation of primary and secondary school levels brings out that teachers will become more innovative in producing the online learning material packages, and the online education in future will be more effective and enjoyable. As the teachers were pushed to do forcefully the online education, and also they found a lot of time now and they can't go outside anywhere. There is restrictions, etc. They enjoyed producing varieties of materials to teach their children, and that's how they have become more and more tech friendly, is what I want to say. And the article says. Well, moving forward, Kahape's study 2020 on reconceptualization of learning space as schools reopen amid and after COVID-19 pandemic. This Kahape study recommends that there is a need for reconceptualization of the idea of learning space. So far, all over the world, the idea of learning space is we are just there amidst within the four walls, the school and the colleges, campus, you just have four walls and you just be there, right? Now, this COVID-19 pandemic, the study clearly, brings out that we need to reconceptualize the learning space. That means the newer understanding of learning space has to emerge. And what are those? You can have open classrooms. You can have distributed learning. You can make them sit in the fields in the different different areas of your campus. Make sure you identify special areas in the campus where students can be taken there with social distancing. You can talk to them, you can teach them, and also have your internet points all over the campus so that they can be accessible to it, and they find this open classroom more useful than always thinking class must have only within the four walls. Okay, gone are those days. Now we have to think out of the box and see what best we can do. I think I've seen in Germany there was an examination conducted in an open stadium. In the stadium the seatings were spread out and the students were made to sit and write the examination, and that's the way they are making use of the available resources to reduce pandemic effect. Well, moving forward, Waller et al. 2020 have brought out a scale to measure parenting in a pandemic, which clearly indicates the changes needed in parental practices as pandemic affected the psychosocial aspects of the students. There is a need for change in the parental practices. Parents cannot be same like they used to dump the children to the school and then evening they used to see them if they're working couples, right? That will not work. And now, of course, all are at home. So what do? Are you getting involved with the student who is learning, your child who is learning? Are you addressing their problems? Are you giving them enough break and playtime and so on? So your way the pattern of behavior with your own child has to change, is what the study says. It is not just the duty or responsibility of the school. Even parents have to rethink and reorganize and reinvent their pattern of living style. Well, Abord et al. 2020, in the article of impact of COVID-19 on education in sub-Sahara Africa, emphasized that e-learning has to be given importance and it has to be part of mainstream education, as it was there prior pandemic, during pandemic, and will be there post pandemic also. I guess all of us will agree, when our schools used to say, you as a teacher, please make use of PowerPoint presentations, take laptops and do stuff. We somewhere said, oh, it's okay, sir, I can use the Blackboard, I can manage. There was a time we used to see these kinds of remarks. Now just look at our situation now. You have no other go but to have a laptop and internet connection and teach via online. So this African study says that e-learning was always been there. It was there before pandemic, during pandemic, and it's going to be there even after pandemic. So therefore, all of us, all the stakeholders have to embrace e-learning with the open mind and learn more and more technology to incorporate that into learning. And also in the future, the 21st century children's are more tech savvy. You cannot manage without e-learning, is what the study clearly says. Then Fadden et al. At Johns Hopkins University conducted a study on why reopening schools is morally complex. He says reopening schools can be morally complex. Why? He mentions that reopening schools in the pandemic is not an easy decision for anybody in the world, as it raises many ethical questions about it, and there is no right answer to it. So, in the way, what they're trying to say in this article is it's morally complex because suppose you have a teacher who is, at a vulnerable stage now, because vulnerable stage in the sense, people above 60 years or 65 years, that's what the research says, are very much prone to corona attack. And if you have a staff of that kind, and also those students who have some health issues, well, they are prone to corona attack. Then what do we do in such case? Should we allow all of them to classroom? Yes, you have to allow, because once you open the school, it's for everyone. You cannot just say, oh, come on, you have a heart disease, please don't come. You cannot say that. So that's how this particular study talks about how reopening schools in pandemic can be morally complex, and it's a very difficult decision to be taken. To whom to deny from allowing them to come to campus, and whom to allow, and if at all they are denied, what they are going to do. Do you have infrastructure in place to show your teaching online while you teach in the school? All these has to be made. So the decision is very tough. It's not easy. Well, another study conducted, a qualitative study conducted in England by Kim Asbury 2020 on teachers' initial experience of COVID-19 finds that the government has to provide clear communication about the future plans, and joined up thinking to support vulnerable pupils are the key to protect teachers. So this study clearly says there is a need for school people and private NGOs and the government come together, have a discussion and decide. It is not just say, all of a sudden, okay, we will have NEET exam, doesn't matter. We will have 10th standard entrance exam, doesn't matter, your board exams, etc. You cannot take a decision all alone. And even now, when government raises his voice saying that we are going to open school, there are parents, please do not open. We are not going to send our children, right? So why is this happening? It's clear. The study clearly says this is a negotiation to be done by all the stakeholders, not the government alone. So therefore, if you go by research, it's already a proven research and the results are out. We have to, read these literature and really make a wise decision when we make the next move during this pandemic is the appeal I'm making by through this research. Then a study conducted by SPOUL 2020 on COVID-19 and schooling in South Africa mentions that children with below 10 years of age are to be brought back to school first, and this would bring balance in the economy. I guess I already talked to you about this just a couple of minutes ago. If you have heard me, fine. Well, the study also mentions that organizations have to check staff above 60 years of age and staff with pre-existing disease are to be temporarily replaced. So that's how it makes it more complex. However, a study conducted by Gray 2020 mentions the 10-point precautionary plans for schools to reduce pandemic effect. And I think at the end, I'm going to mention those 10 points. At the moment, we just hold it. And another study conducted by Mulyanti et al. 2020 on distance learning in vocational high schools during the COVID-19 pandemic in West Java province, Indonesia. The study brings out that online teaching and learning is better in public schools than private vocational high school. Those students can understand teaching via online, but did not find it more interesting than on-site learning. So that's what the finding says. Though they may be enjoying, all of it. With my own experience, we all started online teaching, and we had an overwhelming response from the students, and they started enjoying, etc. But it has reached saturation soon. And as teacher educators and teachers, we need to find out now newer pedagogies, newer methodologies to engage students in a very fruitful and meaningful way. Fan et al. 2020 conducted a study in SARS pandemic exposure. Yeah, this is the one study which is conducted on SARS pandemic, not COVID pandemic. And what it said is it impaired early childhood development. And same is the case. Similar study can be done on COVID-19. The study mentioned that SARS pandemic had an effect on child development and resulted in delayed child development and has impaired child health. So similar effects can also happen on, this is a suggestion for future researchers. Those who are born during this pandemic might have some effects. We do not know corona is present in what form with whom. Sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not visible, sometimes there are symptoms, sometimes there are no symptoms. So sometimes the children who are born during this pandemic may have some side effects, so which needs to be dealt in the future research by either medical practitioners or even school educationists. The study also mentions that there is a need for similar study in COVID-19 situation. Also, it's after effects, Well, so with this background, I think I'm going to straight away talk about our findings. Especially, we did an interview with 8 leading schools principals, and we heard from them some of the indirect and direct effects of COVID-19 to the school management, especially. So this is what it is as I'm presenting here. The financial management is the first one. The financial management of the institutions are mostly around salary, that, and maintenance and maintaining the campus and the scholarship that they need to provide. Finance is the major crisis item for all the organizations as it's a source for many administrative bodies to function. Most of the head said that the salary disbursement to their teaching and non-teaching staff is a major challenge, and few managements were able to pay them until now, but are not sure for the rest of the year. If the situation do not subside, few of the organizations are paying 70% of salary from the actual, and gradually it may be brought down to 50%. With respect to maintenance, though the routine expenses have considerably reduced, because there's no students in the campus, so you need not use much of electricity, water, and other maintenance. But there are other investments like purchasing the online teaching platforms. Some of you must have invested on, buying the Zoom platform or whatever. And Christ University, for your information, we have invested crores of rupees on a platform called Cisco WebEx. Well, we teach on Cisco WebEx. It has better features than other platforms. Well, some of the heads mentioned that several infrastructural projects, were to put on hold, and few are to withdrawn as they are not much confident in the future financial support. I know some of the schools must have started building. They had a huge project. We are going to build this. We are going to have these classes open from the next academic year, and so on. All those have come to an halt. So that's the financial crunch the school management is facing in this pandemic situation. And many parents have, with a lower economic status, are requesting for fee concession. You don't believe this is shared by 8 major schools of India, the principals of 8 major schools of India, well-known schools, and this is the crunch faced by these people. And therefore, some of the heads reached out to support. Even there are, based on the request that they have received, they even reached out to support some of the students. Okay, you need not pay, you can take the online classes, and so on. So that's the financial crunch that the institutions are facing in this pandemic. Moving further, student enrollment. Yes, what happened? At the end of March, we had all of a sudden immediate lockdown, and people are not aware what's happening and why are we locking down, and so on. And of course, so there comes the June month, right? The May June is actually the time of result and admission. As schools were locked down in March, that is the month of examination, and lockdown continued until July, parents were unable to admit their wards on time to the high next education level. Then parents are also facing financial crunch and are confused to decide on the investment to be made on the children's education. Are we going to do this? What's going to happen? We don't know. So therefore, the admissions to lower classes have not reached 50%. Those who are about to put their children to kindergarten, they stopped. It's okay. 1 year, let it go. We will put next year, because there is a. It's not about finance alone. There is it can lead to a bigger problem if you just send them without taking proper precautions. So few admissions to higher grades have not occurred, and also transfer certificates were denied for some of the parents, is what the participants of this study said. And some of the parents are not accessible, and even school management is not accessible, owing the reason that they said it's curfew, it's sealed down, please do not come to school. So that's the way the status of student enrollment that has happened. Well, and when it comes to student retention, most of the heads whomsoever we interviewed mentioned that government has not given clear-cut directions regarding promotions and retentions of students in a particular grade. However, in state board schools, except in the 10th class, students were promoted based on their earlier formative test results. In case of CBSE and ICSE, class 10th exams were waived off. I was just reading the article from Arab countries, what's happening in Arab countries and COVID-19. And they said this, it's just connecting here. They said this: we have not waived off examinations because of pandemic. We are not decisive. That's what the word they used. There are countries who are decisive. They just waived off the class 10th examination, but we are not so decisive. We did some postponement of the examination. We did carry out some online examination. And then, of course, we also had some of the on-site examinations. This is what they said. I was just recollecting what I read. Okay, moving forward, what's the direct and indirect effect of COVID-19 on infrastructure management? Well, most of the heads mentioned that they have invested in buying online teaching platforms, like I mentioned, WebEx, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, etc. Investment were also made on faculty training to teach online. Few have invested in upgrading their learning management system, LMS, what we call. At Christ, we use something called Moodle. I don't know how many of the schools and colleges in India have been using this LMS. Of course, there are many LMS platforms, and we need to invest on that. Many construction projects were put on halt, as I already told you. And then staff training. What's the effect on staff training? Staff were not much used to the technology integration in the classroom and not really familiar with online teaching and learning. The school management had to organize faculty training programs. It has indirectly affected the finance of the individual staff and also of the organizations, because you need to provide these FTPs. And teachers have to invest in purchasing computers, laptops, and also sufficient internet data packs to cope up with the demands of online teaching. The internet people are the best benefited during this pandemic, because everybody needs a unlimited internet connection now, because of online classes going on, and children won't listen to you. They just want, I want my laptop or smartphone right away, right now. I don't know what you're going to do, is what they say, right? Yeah, you all know that. Well, moving forward, student welfare activities. What's happening with that? As per the directions of government, schools did open telecounseling facilities to address the students' issues regarding the online teaching and learning. But few schools were also able to conduct a series of workshops on homeschooling tips and parental guidance program during online teaching. And student reinforcement programs were also held by some of the heads shared this. Well, what's happening to the sports and cultural activity? Most of the heads mentioned that in some of their schools, they are conducting physical exercise classes to the students online, yoga classes being done online, and also music classes being done, for your information. So we're all included in the regular timetable. And some of them even mentioned that they even conducted cultural activities. You can just record your piece of cultural event and then send it to schools for competition. There'll be a panel of judge made who will judge your performance and then award prizes. Well, now, if you compare the online courses that is happening during this pandemic in the local schools and institutions with that of the MOOCs, what do we understand? So many of them mention that distance education, MOOCs, corresponding courses might help the adult learners. When it comes to school children, face-to-face classes are much needed, as it facilitates their socio-emotional aspects. Online education delivery is difficult for primary school children and even middle school children, as that is the age to run around and grow socially. So they also mentioned that the other investment on technology, they can save on transportation and routine expenses in online teaching mode. Well, comparison with other industries, many of them mentioned that education is not a commodity but is a necessary for individuals' all-round development. So, if not for making profits but for service, income earned here is reinvested in terms of infrastructure, salary, and so on. So, people must not think twice in investing in education, as educational investment will make an individual self-reliant. So therefore, there are scholarships, considerations, discounts, etc. possible, when compared to other industries at the education level. Well, some of the challenges and opportunities mentioned by these heads are, most of them did mention that the finance is the major challenge. Everything depends on that. And pandemic has given rise to various opportunities also in terms of online teaching and learning practices, virtual functioning of the educational organizations, webinars in place of seminars and workshops, and human capital can be shared across the world in online mode. So anybody, you need not wait somebody to arrive from an airport and then pick them up and then bring them to seminar. They're just available. And I think every day, almost every week, I'm getting the link from Harvard University to their webinars. They have started the webinar series similar to your college, what you are doing. I appreciate your series of webinars that's happening. I'm receiving the invites from your principal, my friend. Well, So having understood some of the direct and indirect effects of pandemic on school management, now I'm moving to the next part of my talk is on how do we maintain efficiency amidst this pandemic situation? What do we do at the educational institutions? Efficiency, the meaning is you use your less time and energy and bring out the best. So how do we do that? Now all of us know how we have struggled in the initial days of these online classes. We do not know where to open, where to click, where to press, where is the present button, right? You all know the struggle that we had. So now gone are those days. Now we are used to where to click. We know what to do. Immediately we turn on and we immediately get connected, right? So that speaks of efficiency. Now, some of the research outputs, latest research outputs on maintaining efficiency is what I'm going to present to you. Well, that's what it is here on the screen. Continuing online teaching modules to larger classes, YO 2020. So this is one of the point he mentions. For if you have a larger classes, the bigger class, 80 strength, 100 strength, don't bring them on campus. You continue online teaching is what the study suggests by year 2020. And then targeted e-learning strategy will help in maintaining efficiency. Targeted e-learning strategy means what? Means you can split up the group into different sections and then teach them. And you can also target, in which of your course in your campus, which course has a larger strength, keep them away from the campus, teach them from online is what. So targeted e-learning strategy is very contextual. Depending on the target you are looking at, to whom you want to teach, you have to set up a strategy. What are those strategies again is mentioned in that study, but now due to want of time all those we will not be mentioning. But you need to think of targeted e-learning strategy will help you. Well, the next efficiency strategy is open classrooms and distributed learning arrangements within the school campus with Wi-Fi points. I told you that, of course, if it's not raining and not too sunny, well, you can always plan for an open classroom, under the tree, in the corridor, wherever, and maintain sufficient social distancing, but have your Wi-Fi points for children to learn. Then digital parent-teacher meeting to help parents understand the psychosocial support to their children while learning online away from school is can also be planned to maintain the efficiency. You have to take the parents into confidence that though some of the children are staying back home learning, then you be a dialoguing with parents to ensure that they are going to get the same thing as the others who are attending from the campus. Not necessarily people from, sometimes what happens, especially at Christ University, we have people from all over India and also sometimes outside India. Then we will not invite them to come to campus immediately. As per the research here, what it says is we will have some of them on board from school, from home, and then some of them here. So it's up to them to choose whether they really want to come physically to the campus. It's up to them. If they do not want to, they can also stay back there and learn from online. Well, faculty. So another maintaining efficiency is give some FDPs to teachers. Some MOOC courses can be, you can make investment. That's what the Clemens 2020 study says. And social distancing with maintained social connectedness are to be the aims of school. Maintained social connectedness means what? Here, the study by Winner 2020 that says, though if in case you are bringing children back to school campus, you have to put certain restrictions where they can move, where they cannot go, and is it really necessary to go somewhere from one cabin to another cabin or entering staff room, etc. you need to figure out your own strategies to maintain the efficiency. And there is a dire need to invest on delivering education both online and on-site educational organizations. The Brown 2020 study says, you need to ensure online platforms, LMS, and also when they come on-site, do you have so much space for open learning, distributed learning, and even within classroom, how is your seating arrangements be? All that needs to be planned is what this study says. And teachers teaching in online need to engage in preparing teaching material packages suitable for online learning for better effectiveness is what the study says from Lestery and Gunawan 2020. And instead of providing large information during online teaching, modular teaching will help, and learning will be more efficient if you go for modular teaching. What is modular teaching? Teach them in terms of small chunks and bits of information. Test them immediately using a quiz or something. That's going to help you better than having a long lectures like how I'm doing is not going to help. You may you may listen some part of it, not all of it, but then so that's breaking up a larger chunk of teaching content to smaller parts with right learning material will help is what the study by Aborod 2020 says. That online teaching learning platforms and its features are to be effectively utilized by teachers and students for optimum learning. Otherwise, it is meaningless investment is what the study by Ease et al. 2018 says. So there are so many features, for example, like to give you, there is a features called polling, there is a feature called annotations, there is a whiteboard available, there is a breakout session available in all of these softwares mostly. But is all your teacher really skilled at utilizing these features? You have to check in order to maintain efficiency. If they do not know, never mind. You please give them an FDP, give them a training only. Okay, how to conduct a breakout session? Give them a training, hands-on training. Then it works. That will lead to efficiency. If you do not teach them, okay, it's the future is there. You learn by yourself by trial and error. It's not going to help. I'm talking about bringing efficiency. When it comes to efficiency, we need to use less time and energy to quickly log in and then begin, and at the same time enter the different breakout session rooms and talk to them, or have a menti.com to get the pollings. Varieties of features are available. We have to get used to that, and there is a need for giving FTPs on this. So with this, I'm moving to the last part of my presentation, that is, how do we reduce pandemic effect in educational institutions? So just to recap, initially I presented some of the research findings of around 22 scientific articles from January 2020 to August 2020. And then I spoke about my own study findings, around 8 heads of institutions whom we interviewed on various aspects about direct and indirect effect of pandemic. And then I spoke about the efficiency of pandemic effect. How do we bring efficiency in teaching? And the last part I'm talking about now is how do we reduce the pandemic effect in educational institutions? Again, research perspectives. It's all not from me. It's all the findings from the 22 research that are already being out. And for your information, when we looked at all the 22s are done by different parts of the world. None from India has come into this Scopus level journal. So, well, we did that, and thankfully, I wrote something and it's up there on the Scopus. But then that's what has happened. To be frank, well. So how do we reduce pandemic effect? Look at the first point that's presented here. Creating awareness to students and parents on protective measures by developing targeted information campaigns is one of the way to reduce pandemic effect. How do we do this? Creating awareness to students and parents on protective measures. by developing targeted information campaigns. That means, you know, your students, you know, you may have thousand. I heard the secretary mentioning some thousands of students out there in the national college, and you know who are coming from where, what are their whereabouts, and who are coming from vulnerable part of the city, and so on. You develop a strategy and then have have a targeted campaign, like these people have no idea how to sanitize, and they don't know how to put on mask, they don't know where to sit, how to stand in a line, etc. Depending on that, and there may be some elite group coming, you know how much they know, and depending on that, what do they need, whether the usage of online stuff and so on. So like that, you have to create a targeted information campaign. Means that, you know, looking into the targeted audience, you have to create a special campaign, you have to design it according to the needs and the context. Well, the next point, providing guidelines to parents on protective measures to be taken, can be sent via SMS. These days, I'm sure educational institutions and schools also use these technology. You know, they send their homework, etc. They're using online platforms, LMSs these days. That homework, your ward as a homework today, an SMS is coming. I'm sure it's happening all over here in Bangalore. I'm sure it's happening elsewhere as well. And so now we can make use of those LMSs also to ensure protective measures messages reach to parents and students, and these can also be made available on school websites to reduce pandemic effect. You know, this is important. This is your message on the website will be very important, and of course on LMS, as I mentioned. And maintaining social distancing means what? You know, what do you literally mean by that? How do you ensure, and how do you sanitize, how do you wash hands, etc. Cleanliness in the school premises, you know, this is again the study is saying, and it's not the suggestion, a common sense suggestion from me, but this is the research output by Ghosh et al 2020. That you have to keep your campus clean. You know, no matter how big is your campus, you need to ensure cleanliness. Then only parents will trust you and send their children to your campus. Otherwise, you know, there's a lot of chaos going to happen in the future. Well, look at the third point, providing social securities, right? You are sending them via school transports. How safe is it? Is it being sanitized? Is there, you know, minimalizing education inequities among different strata of the society will mitigate psychosocial ill effects. You know, sometimes, you know, we have different groups. Sometimes the students can come from a very vulnerable group. Then how do we deal with them, right? Is all matters there. So how do you provide them the social security with the elite group, with the average group, with the below poverty line group, and so on? Then deploying e-learning modules to larger classes than face-to-face class, which I already told you. If you have a larger classes, better deploy e-learning classes. Then teacher-student ratio per class has to be reduced as a measure of safe school practice, is what Winner 2020 says in his research. Then concept of learning space has to be reframed. I mentioned you don't always think of four walls as a classroom and then social distancing within that. You can look around, look at your campus, look at the places within your campus and the building. Please make use of those spaces, is what the study says. The newer understanding on learning space, and not necessarily only on the campus, even newer understanding also means what if you study from home, what if you study from a laboratory, and so on. It depends, you know, on the course. Well, look at the next point. The schools must communicate parents of the students on newer parental practices due to pandemic. You know, what newer parental practices one should adopt is what the Waller clearly says in his study. And that depends on the context, on the country and the place, you know, in which you're working. What kind of parental guidance is required in this part of the world, you need to give that. And even though there are several alternatives to schooling to reduce pandemic effects, The measure to be taken by stakeholders are morally complex, is what the studies says by Fadden in 2020, as every measure will have its own pros and cons. Well, governments have to suggest the future educational planning and involve teachers in addressing the vulnerable group. As I mentioned, government alone cannot just take a decision. Okay, from tomorrow it's opening, a big boom news you cannot give. You have to include the stakeholders and discuss, and then have a word with the parents as well, and then gradually take decisions to reduce pandemic effects. Well, you just start, and then it, suppose it again spreads, you can't control it. And the last point, the organizations must check staff above 60 years and so on. And also those staff who have pre-existing conditions, diseases, have to be identified and then to be replaced temporarily. I'm not saying just take them out, but then replace temporarily and have some arrangements for that. And in most of the European countries and Netherlands, governments have introduced precautionary measures to reduce pandemic effects, such as temperature checks in the campus being done, and they sent out a clear-cut guidelines. Your class size cannot be more than this number. Unlike we have it here, the class sizes are different, and it's varied from class to class, standard to standard. And open or outdoor classes, they gave the specifications what exactly they can do, and spaced out seating arrangement, and yeah, the 10 point that the gray 2020 is come out is, the first one is to identify vulnerable students and employees and prescribe work or learn from home to them. The first point among the 10. Deep cleaning and surface protection and disinfection is necessary. There are places where deep cleaning is essential, and there are places where surface protection is essential. Then face masks, of course, and hand hygiene, regular surface disinfection from school personals. Then screening stations, schools cannot have one screening station and then children are standing in the streets, in the road, until the screening is done. Of course, you may be doing the screening, but that's not the way. You are blocking the traffic, right? You have to make sure what is the strength of your school. How many screening stations do I need? Where is the place for them to stand with the social distancing? All these needs to be planned out. You cannot just have, to show, okay, this school, I have a screening, and you are standing near the gate and doing it, and you have blocked the entire traffic on that road, right? That's not going to help. You have to plan out clearly. And layout for adequate social distancing. You have to mark your layout exactly and precisely. Avoid common gatherings and communal meal. Where will they have their lunch now? Earlier maybe teachers, parents used to come and feed, right, some of the younger children, and they used to have sit close together, and then they used to eat. Now where will they eat? What needs to be done for that has to be planned in order to maintain the efficiency and reduce pandemic effect. A communal meal is not allowed on the campus. Please make sure you have a spacious eating place for them. Then pathway for easy testing of infected. Suppose you find a student get infected. What's happening in Bangalore these days? You submit your, you report to the authorities that you are infected, and there is no ambulance coming in, and your test result is coming after 15 days. That's not going to help at all. You have to ensure, have a word with the government and make sure, suppose a student is found infected, he has a symptom. Are we going to have a testing center dedicated to schools specially to immediately get the result of that kid and let the school know that this kid is affected, therefore he has to be, he has to be treated, isn't it? You cannot just have a situation, okay, it's the same system, you go same along with the BBMP or whatever government, and it will give you after 20 days the test result. By then the entire school kids are infected. We cannot have this situation. Please understand. So we need to negotiate all of these things with the government before we reopen. And safety measures for outside school and work. Even though the kids, let's say, started coming to school, even we as schools must also prescribe certain guidelines. If you go outside with your parents in the evening, how do you look after yourself, and how do you come back next day morning safely? All these things have to be worked out. I think I have talked enough on direct and indirect effect of pandemic on school management, and how to maintain efficiency in amidst pandemic, and also how to reduce pandemic effects in school campuses. Well, with this, I conclude, and I hope this research findings plus the research findings that I have presented is of some use to the audience over here. And my sincere thanks to the organizers for giving this opportunity for me to share this research outputs, plus share some of the research outputs all over the world to this gathering. I'm sure this is going to help you in doing something better amidst pandemic. Well, thank you. So I conclude here. I think I'm open to questions here, I guess. Over to Chidanand, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I would like to thank Dr. Prakash GS, sir, for his resourceful and such a fruitful presentation, sir. Very informative session. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Now we will move on to this discussion session. I request the participants who have any questions regarding this area, please text your question in chat box. I will communicate with you. Prakash, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Audible?
Yes.
First question from Shilpa Devadiga.
Okay.
Sir, would you please suggest some methods that can be followed to reduce pandemic in schools?
Yeah, I think the last part of the slide, what I'm still presenting there, I did not take out.
Yes,
These are the methods to reduce pandemic in schools. Like I told you, the temperature check and the parental guidance, targeted e-learning strategies you can have. At the same time, you also have your stations of different stations to check students and help them out in terms of cleanliness, and have some masks be there to give it to students in case they need. There are quite a few arrangements, and also have a layout, special layout and the regulations for schools to move in. Suppose you are doing your assembly in school, what should be the social distance? Is assembly necessary, or should we use my speaker to just conduct the assembly, and students are well placed with enough social distancing? All these things, you have to, like the Harvard University suggested, please make some 4 groups, and then each group can work on details of different aspects of your daily routines at school, and then you can definitely come out with a very safety environment at school is what I would like to suggest at this moment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer. The question from Asha Kiran Panda.
Okay.
Sir, please can you suggest any solution for online classes provided to BPL, below poverty line students, to nurture their excellence having zero expenditure?
Exactly. Yes, I do. I appreciate this question, especially to the person who asked. As I mentioned in my talk, when I was reading the article on how do these Arab countries, UAE planned at the national level, including the Egypt, planned their national level platform for online teaching. They did not go for, like in India, each institutions went with their own software. But in Egypt and many Arab countries, I really appreciate, they went with the government online platform. I think I heard Iraq, for example, Iraq and Kurdistan, especially, I referred, they have something called Darshak. Darshak is an online platform they use, Darshak 1 and Series 2. And many other countries
Streaming.
different online platforms. So like that, even in India, we have EduSat, satellite TV programs can be made available. Even radio programs can be made available. There are some countries who have used radio programming, TV programming, and homeschooling, kit or supplied to each house, depending on the standards and so that way, government can definitely take initiative on providing or TV schooling, television schooling in the Doordarshan, and also radio schooling. Instead of radio, all FM, all sorts of channels are there. Why don't they dedicate one channel to teach all the schools? They can have the timings this day for primary school, this day for 8th standard, 9th standard. They can verify that. Why government is not giving any such suggestions? It's happening in other states. I guess those kinds of solutions will help through TV teaching, radio teaching, and then providing schooling kit to different school parents. They just visit to the homes and distribute those kits instead of distributing many other things that you are doing. Is what the suggestion from the research only, not my own personal suggestion. But then I also consider that those suggestions is also possible in Indian situation. Well, I guess I answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This last question, sir.
Sure.
Question from once again Asha Kiran. Can you please suggest that how many screening stations can be negotiable in school, colleges, universities in peripheral atmosphere?
Yeah, sure. See, you will definitely have, it depends on how big your campus. For example, Christ, if you take, we have two mini campuses, but then one of the campus is 100 acres, other campus is 20 acres and so on. So definitely depending on the student strength, you can hold your screening test centers. You can have a temporary shed arrangement for screening and various other facilities to be stacked up. Definitely, you can have a minimum a small school of 1,000 students. You can definitely have 4 to 5 stalls at least. I'm sure that's going to help you. It depends on the space that is available also. I guess you got it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. This question for Dr. Tangpu, sir. Please connect Tangpu. Unmute. Tangpu, sir. Is this audible?
Hello. Can
Tangpu,
you hear
sir?
me? Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Can you
Is
hear
it
me?
possible for? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please tell me.
Yes. Sir, this question for you. Question from Raghavendra M. Shet.
Okay.
Is it possible for all institutions to make it eco-friendly in all aspects? Sir, can I repeat it once again?
Yeah. Are you repeating?
Is it possible for all the institutions? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To make it eco-friendly in all aspects.
Yes, definitely yes. Now, eco-friendly strategies are many, rampantly available in every institution and in every information. The only thing missing is sensitizing and put into practice. No institution, no authority, no management is taking forward to put into practice. That is the only failure on our part. Every aspect, going green, composting, waste management, recycling, biogas production, everything, solar banner, induction, all this can happen in the same campus by one institution.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, Dr. Prakash, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is last question for you. Sorry.
Sure.
How to maintain how to maintain social distancing in schools?
That's it? That's the question?
Yes.
Yeah. See, it depends. What we have seen in schools is, there are schools like IGCSE and IB World schools. They have very less strength. Per class there are only 12 students if you look at. And but there are also schools ICSE and CBSE where the strength varies from 30 to 40. And definitely, as of now, the plan is you can have those students who are willing to come to learn from campus and within your classroom, and also open classroom if possible. You can make arrangements and learn with the social distancing, minimum 4 to 6 feet away from each person. At the same time, if some of the students who are, or whose parents are ready to invest to take the tutorials from home, the cameras can be made available. I mean, your classes can go online for those who learn from home, and others who want to visit the campus and learn are welcome, but with the social distancing of 4 to 6 feet distance has to be done. Otherwise, we are in a risk. So that's what my suggestion at the moment. But let's see. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prakash sir and Tangpu sir. Thank you for your very informative answers. Finally, I request Dr. Sharana Naika, Assistant Professor, SVK National College of Education, for vote of thanks. Over to you, sir. Dr. Sharana Naik, sir.
Thank you, Chidanand, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Sharana Naik, working as an Assistant Professor in SVK National College of Education, Shimoga. Today we have faced a very good sessions where we got a very comprehensive view regarding the creating eco-friendly environment and reducing pandemic effects at schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation. The two sessions were very informative, and we got a golden opportunity to listen to the speech of such an intellectual personality. And I am very much privileged to thank S.N. Nagaraj sir, Secretary, National Education Society, Shimoga, for introducing our esteemed institution to you all. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Pallavi D., Lecturer, National College of Education, for her introductory remarks. It's my humble duty to thank Professor S.S. Patil sir, Honorable Registrar of Kuyempu University, Sinkargatta, for rendering inaugural speech. I would like to thank Dr. V. Thampu sir, resource persons of today's webinar, who enlightened us with his view regarding creating eco-friendly environment in schools and colleges during COVID-19 situation. I am very much privileged to thank another resource persons of today's webinar, Dr. Prakash G.S., Assistant Professor, for rendering a wonderful lecture regarding research perspective on maintaining efficiency and reduce pandemic effects at schools. Last but not the least, I would extend my heartfelt thanks to our principal, Dr. Prakash sir, all his support. And finally, I thank all the organizing committee and technical assistant Siddiqui Pasha for their timely support. Without their support, the webinar would not be a great success. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Sharana Naika. Thank you for vote of thanks. Thank you, one and all. Dear participants, SVK National College of Education conducted series of webinar. Our next webinar is on 14th September 2020. Area of webinar is salient features of National Education Policy NEP 2020 on teacher education in futuristic vision. Resource persons are Dr. Sandeep Kumar, Assistant Professor, CIE, Department of Education, University of Delhi, India. Another resource person, Dr. Hasin Taz, Professor and Dean, Faculty of Education, Bangalore University, Bangalore. Once again, I request to all the participants Please register and participate in our upcoming webinars. Thank you one and all. Have a nice day. Thank you.